Well, good afternoon, everybody. And as we were talking about today, the closing keynote in our series on manufacturing and supply chain innovations about the realignment of supply chains toward more resilient society, toward greater environmental sustainability, toward greater national security, and toward keeping up with new technology, all kind of comes together in this last talk. And before I introduce our speaker, I want to say a special thanks to the companies in the U.S. Asia Technology Management Center. It's your support that allows us to put on this program. And I also want to say a special thanks to the Japan-U.S. Innovation Awards. This is a joint program between the Japan Society of Northern California and our center here at Stanford. And Larry and Steve and Miho, raise your hands and recognize yourselves. The Japan Society provides the major part of the funding in the Japan-U.S. Innovation Awards program. It's the longest running program that features innovation and entrepreneurship relationships between Silicon Valley and Japan. Our big program is in July when we give out Emerging Leader Awards. The first Emerging Leader Awards we gave out 15 years ago went to Tesla Motors and to a Japanese company that later had the largest IPO in Japan. The Innovation Awards this year went to iSpace in Japan, which developed the lunar rover that the Japanese had some kind of issues with, and also Joby Aviation here in the US. We also feature 5 Japanese startup companies in an innovation showcase that have new ideas that we think will be of special interest in Silicon Valley. So keep your eyes open for that. An innovation salon in this Innovation Awards program is a program on a specific topic that kind of complements the basic focus. So we're very happy that the Innovation Awards program would make this an innovation salon in their series. For those of you who are taking the course for credit, this is the last session. It means that everything you do for the class needs to be turned in to me by the scheduled exam time of the course. I have a special request, and that is please fill out the course evaluation online. Stanford pays attention to these, and I pay attention to them too. Basically, you're evaluating me. My role is to put together the series, to select the speakers, identify the topics, try to have a balanced series, make sure everything goes smoothly. And also, hopefully, to lead kind of, a little bit of things with the overview presentation that I give. I'm delighted to read your comments each week. And I'm very happy to see so many comments that say fantastic seminar and, this was great. Please put that in the course evaluation if you would. So today, I'm very happy to introduce Mr. Ryan Harty, who is the Assistant Vice President and also Division Lead of the Energy Solutions Division in the Sustainability and Business Development Unit in American Honda Motor Limited. So Ryan's joining us from Los Angeles today. Honda has a 000 kind of plan. 0 carbon for its products, 0 carbon for the energy that it's used in its operations, and 0 environmental impact from the materials that it uses. So Ryan's going to talk to us about a very challenging kind of proposal here. He comes to us from up north, Alberta, University of Alberta. Are you Canadian?
I am Canadian.
Okay. Welcome in. I'm glad you're here. And got his degree in mechanical engineering, was working with Honda R&D. For those of you who don't really know the landscape of R&D in Japan, Honda R&D, also in Japanese known as Honda Giken, is one of the most prestigious research organizations in Japan. They've had a very long relationship with a lot of the faculty on the engineering side here at Stanford. And so that in itself is quite something. And then moved over to American Honda Motor in 2011 to accelerate the market adoption of more sustainable kind of products and businesses. So Ryan, I'm delighted to turn the floor over to you. We'll ask you for some prepared remarks, then we'll have Q&A for the rest of the session.
Awesome.
Floor is yours.
Thank you so much. When Dr. Dasher asked me to put this presentation together, the topic was sustainability and open innovation, Honda's approach to realigning global manufacturing. And in putting the presentation together, I realized that actually I'm not talking about manufacturing as much as talking about the entire value chain. We're talking actually about the entire value chain and the opportunity that we have as a manufacturer to rebuild a complete value chain for electric vehicles with these principles of zero carbon products, zero carbon energy, and resource circularity in mind. Let's go to the next slide. Just curious, which one am I presenting?
I think you were looking at.
I control this one?
I'm on the Zoom version.
It's like, this is the Zoom version up
So
here.
what's happening is you're controlling the screen and she's controlling Zoom,
Got it.
I think.
Oh, sorry, hold on. There, lectern laptop.
Awesome. Perfect. Then I can point to things. Awesome. So at Honda, we're a corporation, right? We take resources as inputs into the corporation. We take the dreams of our customers and employees and shareholders, package them together and create products, services, and innovations for our customers that transcend our customers' dreams, and then hopefully augment society's needs for innovation. Honda's vision is we create the joy and freedom of mobility and become the power that supports individuals who start moving towards their dreams. Very broad and lighty. So today, Honda's key themes that drive the company's innovation are around creation of innovative technologies. Dr. Dasher talked about Honda R&D. A lot of what Honda does is just simple creation. People have an idea, create some technology around that idea, and if we can develop a product or service from it, or advance human knowledge from that work, that's a successful project. We want to enhance our brand value, evolution of our people management. One of the two biggest goals of the company are to realize a zero environmental impact society and to realize a zero traffic collision society. Today, I'm mostly going to be talking about the zero environmental impact society and the efforts that my team is doing towards achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. The 000 goals for Honda are these. Number one, we want to have zero CO2 from our product lineup. Every product we sell needs to be a zero product at the product level. Of course, everything that we sell is also driven by energy. We want to provide zero CO2 energy for every product we sell and our entire value chain end to end, such that all of our operations are zero carbon by 2050. And we want to achieve resource circularity so that we have zero use of mined resources by using sustainably sourced and recycled materials throughout the entire value chain. So every product that we sell will come from recycled and sustainably sourced materials. For the carbon neutrality portion, if you zoom out and look at our total footprint, as a manufacturer, our core activity is actually a fairly small part of our environmental footprint, CO2 footprint. Most of it, more than 75%, is, say, the tailpipe CO2 emissions of the products that we sell. And about 15% is the supply chain, manufacturers making the products, making raw materials, mining raw materials, bringing those to our plants, and then us distributing those products through our value chain. So really, to achieve this, it's a fairly simple strategy, right? We want to shift to 100% EV and fuel cell vehicle, plus supply zero carbon energy to those products by 2040. We want to purchase 100% zero carbon electricity for our own operations. We call that Scope 2 emissions. Scope 3 is our supply chain and logistics and dealers and recycling, all of the entire footprint of Honda that we don't directly own or control, but whose corporate output we do control through purchasing or supplying our products. We want to electrify or eliminate any process that uses natural gas or diesel or propane, plus supply zero carbon power to that source, and then deploy resource circularity. Simple, right? All right, let's break it down. It's a tactical strategy. This creates incredible opportunity to expand the value chain of Honda beyond these products into the electricity supply chain, into the EV charging chain, into the fuel supply chain for hydrogen fuel cell products for logistics and transportation. So my team's job is really about seizing the opportunities that are created from this transition. And you know, for example, identifying materials and figuring out a way to scale up manufacturing, to bring down the cost, to make some material feasible that was not really feasible before. Seize those opportunities. We can't do it ourselves, so we need to deploy our resources and partners' resources to develop those necessary businesses and technologies. In many cases, there is no regulatory framework around the products and technologies we want to bring to market. So we need to create and influence those markets or those policies in order to sell those products and collaborate. Everything in this area, it's new. For the most part, we can't do it ourselves. We're not only changing value chains as they are, but creating new value chains and interfering in existing ones. That takes a lot of collaboration. And for example, because the problems are really too big to solve by ourselves, I'll be talking a lot about the partnerships and alliances that we have to execute the strategy. And really, all of this is new. And the history of Honda is all about trying things, failing, fixing them, launching them, failing again, and until finally you can find a solution that works in the market. So my team's work is all about identifying opportunities, or for example, just simple tactical things. We need a material to replace polypropylene in bumpers, right? So then how do we develop a new material how do we do it in a commercially feasible way? So we start out with the basic technology, pure technology research. It can be manufacturing research, work through our universities. I'm going to talk about 99P Labs and Honda Research Institute and our partners. We need to improve the technology, bring it up the technology readiness level, identify where it is in commercial readiness index, and really, at the end of the day, we want to sell products at a profitable way for the company, ideally at a price that brings our customers overwhelming joy. When they buy a product that brings much more value to them than the price that they paid, we say we've created customer value. And that's a joyful experience for a customer when they buy something that brings them incredible joy. Honda, you'll hear sometimes the Honda philosophy, there's 3 joys. The joy of buying. Like that when you created a product or when the customer buys a product that brings them joy to use it. It's fun, it meets their needs, and they feel like they've paid way less than the product is worth. That's true joy to bring to the customer. There's the joy of selling, which as a company, if you've succeeded in creating a product and you sell it to a customer, they have a great customer experience, that's a really engaging aspect for employees. At the dealerships, at the sales channels, when they've sold a product that brings joy to their customer spaces, that creates true joy. And the joy of creating. We talked about Honda R&D, and how many people in here are in an engineering technical profession and you like to play and you've created something, brought it to the market? No, got a few. That joy of creating something new that's never been done before in the world, and creates good joy for the customer. We call that the joy of creating. And Honda globally is oriented around, delivering those joys to the company. So that's really my team's effort. We start out with agile teams, look at the fundamental technologies, fundamental business models, and figure out how to grow and scale it, how to improve them, how to improve the technology, how to improve the business model. Sometimes it's through partnership innovation, manufacturing scale up. Once we set the business strategy or the product strategy, you mature those to the point where you can introduce that product or technology to the market, bring it to the market, launch it, and then scale it from there. Mr. Honda always said that success represents the 1% of your work which results from 99% failure. And that is really a true and key aspect of working for Honda. We're not afraid to fail. We don't fail very often with product because there's so much engineering that goes into developing that. We do fail, and we learn and apply the learnings to the products that we make. I'm going to go for a little bit of a side tangent here with one of the initiatives of Honda called 99P Labs. It's an initiative of Honda Research Institute globally. And it's really oriented around this idea that you have to pivot 99 times before you'll find a product or service or technology that actually meets the needs of the customer. And so that's the inspiration behind 99P. And this came directly from the philosophy of Mr. Honda himself. And every technology will have, minimum of 99 failures before it delivers to the customer. 99P Labs is oriented around trying to solve some of these problems of urban mobility, of congestion, road accident fatalities, energy, CO2 emissions, better use of transportation, and solving air pollution. We have a lot of research around mobility futures to try to improve people's lives, and I'll get into here a little bit. This initiative is around working with universities, university labs, university researchers and courses in order to advance those very basic ideas of business and technology, again, to grow up, pivot 99 times and solve a real problem. So I did notice in putting this together that there's no Stanford on there. We do have here in the Bay Area another organization we call the Honda Silicon Valley office. And their job is to work with the entrepreneurial community and startup communities, provide access to Honda's tools and resources in order to grow up and speed up their development in these areas. And then through the 99P Labs, we work with university classes throughout the United States to advance new ideas. Essentially, it always starts with some idea or a theme. We work and do student activities, sometimes hackathons and challenges, write papers that become posts or blogs, some slide decks, videos. Student projects that advance from there can become capstone projects or externships supported by Honda. We'll do sponsored research. If you've got a master's or PhD thesis that is in these areas, 99P Labs will work to provide information, data, tools of Honda until finally, ideally, we can create some application from that, whether it's intellectual property, some patents reports, or open code to use in the work. So should you want to partner with 99P Labs, we have a website, 99plabs.com, and a developer portal where you can gain access to data sets from Honda in order to use in your research. So why are we doing all this research and developing? So in my area, it's really about advancing and accelerating the electrification of automobiles. Finally, across Honda, it's every product Honda makes: motorcycles, power equipment products, automobiles, aircraft. Everything needs to be made zero CO2 emission in order to achieve the goals. But really, auto is more than 90% of the total footprint of the company, so that's where we need to spend most of the effort. Our key targets are by 2030, we want to achieve 40% sales share of EV and fuel cell vehicle, 80% by 2035 and 100% by 2040. Now, I will also say that, there's certain elections that occurred that might disrupt the economic and policy and customer acceptance environment of this. But as of right now, these are Honda's goals, and this is what we're still driving towards. Very satisfyingly, this year, Honda mass launched Prologue and ZDX electric vehicles. Now, these were the first, say, high volume EVs in the market. We sold nearly 7,000 Prologues in November of this year. And so that's the single highest sales month of an EV by Honda to date. And talking about collaborations, the Honda Prologue and Acura ZDX were co-developed with General Motors using the Ultium platform for the battery and motor system. Now, Honda has, nominally around 9% market share. GM has around 14% market share. Each company can develop a small SUV, medium-sized SUV, and achieve a certain sales amount. If you share the platform development cost and you share the manufacturing costs, and we can each sell into our own channels in those different customer vehicle segments and different price points, you can essentially double the sales for the same, cost input for the system. So this has been a very successful, it's not a joint venture, it's a business agreement, but successful partnership with General Motors in order to co-develop and then manufacture and market and sell EVs, where neither company would have been able to do it at a business feasible way by themselves, but both companies together can do it and offer products that are at a very reasonable price in the market. Going back to the question, one of the barriers of EV adoption is price. Both companies are now offering EVs at historically low prices, below the median transaction price of all automobiles. You can buy EVs based on this platform. That would not have been capable without this type of collaboration. We also launched this year a new fuel cell electric vehicle, the CRVE:FCEV. I don't know why it's such an acronym, but that's what we have. In 2025, we will be starting to manufacture new EVs on an all-new platform by Honda and Acura. And I'll show some pictures about our EV hub in Ohio and a joint venture with LG Energy Storage to build an EV battery plant in Ohio. 2026, we'll launch a new series of EVs we call the Honda Zero series that'll have honestly quite some incredible technology. You'll see a lot more about these cars in the coming days. And of course, the Sony Honda Mobility Afeela product is coming out. By 2030, we mentioned 40% of our sales targeted to be EVs, and with 100% by 2040. So the Prologue and ZDX were launched this year, and it was very gratifying for me. I spent 5 years as a development engineer on these projects, leading teams to bring these products to the market in that partnership. That was been quite a success. And then the Honda Zero series coming up. The two products we showed last year at CES. One of the wonderful things about electric vehicle is that you get to completely redesign the platform. Now, some of the things that you can do with battery orientation, placement of wheels, placement of the cabin and orientation of the cabin with respect to the car, it's all new and different with EV. You're not locked into having a big engine up front that needs a certain crash stroke and needs a way for it to move. So the entire vehicle can be reimagined. People's relationship with the car can be reimagined. And our upcoming, we call it Saloon and Space Hub products reflect that new spirit of engineering design that can be expressed through the electric platform. By 2030, we'll introduce 7 new models on this platform, including the saloon, a mid-size SUV, an entry-size SUV, 3-row SUV, compact SUV, small size SUV, and a compact sedan, all coming out of the Zero series by 2030. Some of the things that my team has been involved with are creating expanding the value chain beyond the core product. So for example, the EV charging hardware that our customers will buy and install at their homes in order to support their charging. The value chain of getting electrical contractors to the customer's home and bringing that into the portfolio of what Honda does, how we interact with our customer, how we support our customer. The smartphone apps and data. We've made partnerships with EVgo, Electrify America, PlugShare, and now Tesla in order to bring the data about the EV charging networks into our smartphone apps and then enable our vehicles to charge in those networks. It used to be really easy. You pull up to a pump, just start pouring liquid hydrocarbons into a tank, and it was pretty easy. It's a little more complicated with electric vehicle charging and different standards, different charging speeds, making sure that our customers have access to the highest quality charging network possible takes a lot of data and information to be able to get that information into our customers' hands. We don't have the ubiquity of charging stations yet, that you have 2 on opposite corners of every major street intersection in an urban area. So how do you make sure that your customer can take a road trip, can go about their daily business, and have a high quality public charging experience? It's data and partnerships and work to make it happen. My team was instrumental in standing up Iona. This is a joint venture between BMW, General Motors, Honda, Hyundai, Kia, Mercedes, Stellantis, and Toyota. Billions of dollars of investment in more than 30,000 charging stations by 2030 across North America to support our EV drivers. And so the very first, the headquarters of this new joint venture are in Raleigh, North Carolina. The first sites are being opened up presently. Springfield, Ohio, a couple places in Pennsylvania are the very first ones coming out. Again, going back to the spirit of partnerships and open innovation, to create that charging network to support our customers has been great. I'll talk a little bit more about this later in the presentation, but we formed a joint venture called ChargeScape between BMW, Ford, Honda, and now Nissan, where, again, about the complexity of EVs, when the EV charges is really important to the electric utility, who has to figure out how to deliver electricity to not just all of the EVs that are charging out there, but also to all this new industry that's being built out there, all the data centers being built out there, all these new heat pumps and air conditioners that are being installed. The electric utility has to deliver electricity to all of those customers. So when EVs charge is actually a really interesting and complex problem. And utilities want a solution where they can dispatch what's called demand response, essentially schedule the load, schedule the charging of EVs. Electric vehicles provide incredible flexibility. So, for example, when you get to your home and you plug in your EV, you don't need it fully charged, in 30 minutes or 45 minutes. You need it fully charged when you want to drive it again. And if we can figure out how to communicate the needs of the drivers with the needs of the electric utilities and make that work, we can deliver electricity to all the customers at a much lower cost than having to build out infrastructure to support all of those EVs, should they all want to be charged at the same time. We've made a partnership, an investment in a small company called Emporia to help our customers do this at home through home energy management. And we've been working with Tesla on the adoption of Tesla connectors for all of our cars. So my team's been working on all of this charging stuff to try to make a smooth smooth transition for our customers to EVs. I talked a little bit about resource circularity. And I'm not going to go as in depth into this, but again, value chains are efficient. And today, at the end of a vehicle's life, it essentially ends up at a junkyard, gets shredded. That shredded metal gets largely recycled. Vehicles today are very largely recycled. Most of that recycled steel does not end up back into the automobile value chain. And so our teams have been working with recyclers to figure out how to get the purity of metal back up to automotive grade. And we found that by doing a little bit more processing at the recycling stage, removing some of the copper, removing some other parts that have contaminants, you can get a high quality, sheet metal stamping grade metal back into the value stream. Now, figuring out how to do that at a reasonable cost is still a big challenge. Part of that feeds back into design. So we want to be able to design our products to be easily disassembled, easily sorted, and create automotive standards such that it's not just Honda, but other automakers who are doing similar things, so that we can get high purity materials through the entire automobile value chain. A big part of this is also about data and traceability. Today, we will know where the raw steel came from the steel supplier. But once that's been sold, we don't really know where the car went. We don't know what scrapyard it ended up at. We don't know any of that. So building an ecosystem of data such that all of the parts, all the materials are traceable through the entire value chain from end to end and back again is necessary in order to achieve that big objective of resource circularity. So we're building out that ecosystem as well, working with the suppliers, working with the tier 2, tier 3 suppliers to build out the traceability, building digital systems to track and trace materials through the value chain. Batteries. This is a place where, again, because we're creating an entirely new value chain from scratch, we get to dictate the shape of it. And resource circularity is key to Honda's, our brand promise of EVs. And so we're working with companies, Ascend Elements, Service Solutions. We have partnerships in place to procure high volume recycled battery materials to feed back into our manufacturing plants, such that our batteries will have very high rate of recycled material. Now, there aren't enough EVs in circulation today to make today's EVs out of recycled materials, right? They're all on the road for the most part. And so there will be a period in the interim where we are buying raw materials to introduce into new batteries. Over time, we think by mid-2030s, there should be a sufficiently robust supply of recycled vehicle batteries and stationary use batteries that we won't need to mine new materials, cobalt, lithium, and other materials in order to get a very high grade of battery material. And so we're working with our partners, POSCO Holdings, Hanwha, Ascend, and Serba in order to express that value chain. Also our manufacturing partners, LG Energy Solution, GS Yuasa, SES, again, building out those manufacturing facilities, their new supply chains from scratch in order to build these EVs is a big challenge. I mentioned about our EV hub in Ohio. Honda's undergoing now a massive transition from how we were doing business before to the business of building EVs. And at each of our manufacturing facilities, we're, revolutionizing the supply lines, just the manufacturing lines, such that we can build, internal combustion engine vehicles, also hybrid vehicles, also electric vehicles on those lines. And by using the same the same manufacturing facility, the same manufacturing lines. Again, we can reduce the cost of the products that are coming out the other end. At the same time, though, we're standing up entirely new facilities like the battery joint venture in order to build these EVs. I find this picture just a little bit sad, but also quite joyful. Our very first auto plant in the United States, Marysville Auto Plant, is internally basically being gutted and being completely retrofit to build the new manufacturing facility for electric cars. Some of the facilities that we have, for example, Anna Engine Plant is the name of the plant. We changed the name of the plant to Anna Castings Plant. The same technology that we use for molding and casting aluminum engine blocks. I won't say exactly the same technology, but expanded technology. We can now do high pressure aluminum casting to make battery packs, the cases for battery packs, structurally stable, high capacity casting for holding batteries, using the same facilities and basically the same know-how that came from casting engines. And so using the resources and tools and materials and knowledge of the people to do that is again a revolution, but it's an incremental change to how we do business. In Canada, we've announced a entirely new EV production facility, all the way from the raw material for batteries, which if you haven't been up to Canada, there's actually an incredible revolution in manufacturing technology for batteries going on in Canada. But lithium supply, carbon for anodes. We partnered with a company to build a separator plant for the batteries. Every component for EV battery manufacturing is being built in a relatively vertically integrated way in Canada to support the Honda Zero Series rollout. And I talked a little bit about expanding the value chain. This part here, honestly, I am 100% responsible for in North America for it coming about. But supply of clean energy. The biggest, well, I guess, I won't say the biggest challenge of EV, but the biggest footprint of the company is with the electricity, with the tailpipe energy of the vehicles that we produce. And when a customer talks to a dealer about a car and they ask that question, where does the energy come from for me to charge the car? I want our company to be able to give that answer that Honda has installed new clean renewable energy generation to support all of the charging needs of our customer. Today, that's not quite true. It's almost true for all of our manufacturing. We've crossed more than 80% of all the electricity that we use in North America will come from clean sources. We have an operating wind farm in Oklahoma, a solar farm operating in Texas. In the electricity system, it's kind of interesting. You can't really measure when you're using electricity. You can't measure where it came from. It's not tagged and it's not, you just can't measure it. It's also interesting that when you put a generator online, like for example, our Torrance campus has solar panels on it. They don't just supply our Torrance campus. They instantaneously supply all of Southern California at the same time. Every generator on the grid supports everything that's using power on the grid at the same time. So when companies want to make a claim that they're using clean energy, actually they have to go out and build a facility somewhere that supplies clean energy. You can get credit for what you supply to the system. And frankly, if every company and every person supplied the energy at the same rate that they used energy, we'd have 100% zero carbon grid. that's really, really difficult. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But putting together these power purchase agreements, virtual power purchase agreements, and building these facilities has been part of my team's work. That is also an opportunity for us to enter and expand the value chain where there's value in energy management, in managing the time between when energy is generated and when it's used, and managing the time of using energy to match when it's generated. We took what we learned in doing this ourselves, and we're pushing it through the automobile supply chain. I mentioned at the beginning that the supply chain itself is about 5 times our own manufacturing footprint. Electricity emissions from burning coal and natural gas to make electricity is about 70% of the supply chain emissions. So if we can revolutionize the adoption of renewable electricity through the supply chain, we can drastically reduce our own CO2 footprint. So we created a program as Honda to push through our own automobile supply chain. Other auto OEMs became jealous of our effort, and we worked with an organization called the Suppliers Partnership for the Environment. And almost all of the suppliers for all the auto OEMs in North America are members of this organization. We expanded our program to help the supply chain to adopt renewable electricity. So like, for example, most of the stamping suppliers, they don't just supply Honda, they supply other auto OEMs as well. And so if we want them to meet a sustainability goal for us, we have to do it across the whole industry. And we created that, the method for them to do that. So there's going to be a lot of renewable electricity in the future. That's actually a really big challenge for the electric grid. So maybe you've seen some of this image. This is called the duck curve. It just kind of represents over time that when renewables generate, the more renewables generate, kind of disrupts how electricity is supplied into the electric grid. It also really disrupts the price of electricity and the markets for how electricity supply and demand are matched. There's a basic problem that generators, be they natural gas or coal-fired generators or nuclear generators, they can't catch up to the speed at which the sun goes down or the wind stops blowing. And so there's a really big need in a future of ubiquitous renewable electricity. There's a really big need for energy storage to fill that gap and to help make supply and demand match. It just so happens that if you scale electric vehicles at about the same rate that you scale renewable energy adoption to the grid as a whole, and you use the ability of electric vehicle charging and the flexibility that you have about the difference between when you need the energy and when you actually plugged into the grid. If you can use that, you can roughly use the energy storage capacity of the electric vehicle fleet to meet society's needs for energy storage to match a renewable energy generation society to the needs of everyone. So this is something that I've been very passionate about and working on the business and technology to bring to market. And this is going to be an experiment. I have a video. I didn't actually tell you that this video was going to be in here.
The future of energy is renewable. And as more and more Americans make the switch to renewable energy in our homes, our offices, and our vehicles, that's great for the environment and our wallets. Trouble is, renewable energy isn't always readily available. When the sun goes down and the wind stops blowing, renewable energy capacity drops. Expensive fossil fuel sources then have to ramp up quickly to meet the demand, leading to higher CO2 emissions and wasted money. And your electric vehicle ends up pulling from those fossil fuel sources while charging. But what if there was a way to help the environment and charge your vehicle at the same time? With the Honda Smart Charge program, your vehicle charges when electricity demand is low and availability of renewable energy is high, no matter what time of day it is. That means lower CO2 emissions because your vehicle avoids charging when renewables aren't producing or when fossil fuel plants are ramping up to meet high demand. Use the Honda Link app to set up your common charge locations like home and work and enter your typical daily schedule. Then just plug in and go about your life as your vehicle returns to a full charge. If your schedule changes, don't worry. You can always override Smart Charge to get a faster charge. Honda Smart Charge is designed to make sure your vehicle is always charged and ready to go when you are. And you'll be able to monitor how you become a part of the solution, earning rewards while reducing your CO2 impact. With Honda Smart Charge, you'll charge your wallet while you charge your car. Visit HondaSmartCharge.com to learn more. Download the Honda Link app today to enroll.
Now, the next phase of that is using the vehicle battery itself and putting power back onto the electric grid. We call that, vehicle to grid. That's a technology that has, it's been talked about for more than 20 years. We think across the industry, not just Honda, but every automaker has been working together to make this a technology a reality. And the reason I know this is because 6 years ago, we saw this vision as Honda, but we knew we couldn't achieve it ourselves. We formed a 501c6 industry organization called the Vehicle Grid Integration Council. And today we've got 30 some odd members, all working together. We've intervened in more than 200 proceedings at public utilities commissions across the country in order to create the market and regulatory conditions for this to work. And things are kind of lining up to launch in the 2025, 2026 timeframe for this technology. And it's really exciting that as an industry, we're going to be able to use vehicle batteries and energy storage to facilitate this wholesale transition to renewable energy. Skip over that one. Now, I mentioned about using electric vehicle batteries for energy storage for those kind of like daily renewable energy matching. If you want to run a society on renewable energy, but you want to take into account the seasonal difference between wind power and solar power when it's generating versus when you need that energy, you need some seasonal energy storage. We think that's going to come in the form of hydrogen. And so we can use electricity. The smartest time to use renewable electricity is as electricity. If you got too much of it, you should store it in the best means that you can. We think that storing energy as hydrogen makes sense. We can also use it for some applications that are very difficult to electrify, such as heavy-duty trucking, some stationary power generation aspects. One of the other cool things you can do with hydrogen is you can manufacture synthetic materials. If you have carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and renewable hydrogen that you've got from storing renewable electricity, you can make synthetic jet fuel and synthetic plastics and petrochemicals and all kinds of things to offset the other manufacturing materials that we use in our value chain, or the other fuels for products like aircraft that can't be easily electrified. And so Honda's got technologies and projects across this entire energy value chain in order to facilitate this future. Going back to open innovation and collaboration, we worked with General Motors on our last fuel cell system and started production of a joint venture facility in Brownstown, Michigan, Fuel Cell Manufacturing LLC. Fuel cells today are still kind of in an incubation stage. TRL fairly low, very rapid improvement in capability.
TRL,
What did I say?
what does that mean?
Oh, a technology readiness level.
Thank you.
And rapid innovation rapid progress between iterations in technology. So our previous fuel cell, which was in the Honda Clarity, about 80 kilowatt fuel cell, to what we've just put into the CRV fuel cell, the cost is a third, durability is more than double, it's way quieter. It takes about 1/10 the time to start up at -30°C. If you think about that, taking something that when you start it, it makes water, and making it operate at -30°C is pretty impressive. Our next generation fuel cell We've already started the manufacturing planning for it. The cost is half a gain, durability is more than double a gain, power density is triple what we've just released. So we're making rapid improvements with fuel cell, and we see fuel cells having incredible applicability throughout new product chains for Honda. For example, we want to become a supplier of fuel cells to commercial vehicle OEMs. We are not a truck OEM. We'd love to become a fuel cell supplier to those truck OEMs and enable them to offer zero carbon products to their customers and expand the value chain that way. For stationary power generation and construction machines, we think that these industries are ripe for revolution by hydrogen. So building out that manufacturing chain is also another revolution. So today we're at about 2,000 units a year of production capacity for a fuel cell. This is the one that's going into the CRV. We want to expand to about 60,000 units a year of our next generation fuel cell or future generation fuel cell, and then rapidly get into the few 100,000 units a year. My order desk is open, so if you're a startup company and you want to apply fuel cells to something, let me know. Which actually, this is interesting. Dr. Franz Prinz at Stanford University, probably a lot of his knowledge went into our fuel cell stuff. So.
Yeah, I know they were working on fuel cells for years.
So we've just released the CRV-E FCEV. It's quite a handsome product. This is a plug-in hybrid fuel cell. So again, taking the best application of electricity and the ability to very quickly refuel with hydrogen, put it together in one package and make this product. One of the challenges of electric cars is it really does take time to charge batteries. Hydrogen can be refueled like 3 minutes at the vehicle level for light duty, about 10 minutes at a heavy duty truck level for another 400 miles of range. So that's a really important characteristic of hydrogen that we think enables transition to zero emission power. I mentioned we're not going to be a truck OEM, but we have built a fuel cell truck concept in order to show our capability to the industry. And so this is making its rounds now at our own parts distribution centers and just demonstrating to at a technology readiness level, still fairly low, commercial readiness level, still fairly low, but starting to create that new opportunity. We also demonstrated that by combining many small fuel cells together, you can create large power. So we have a 500 kilowatt stationary power generator using used fuel cell systems from our Clarity fuel cell vehicles. This is an application in backup power attached to our own data center at our Torrance, California headquarters. And so the power doesn't go out that often in Torrance, but when it does, this fuel cell system comes on to support our data center. There's a picture of that fuel cell. Now, as Honda, what we have done as an auto OEM in our history is we develop a product, we manufacture the product, sell it to a dealer or distributor who then sells it to retail customers. But the revolution in value chain that we're undergoing now is that we have to become a solution provider to our customers. Our fuel cell system itself, we have to support our customers to integrate into their products so that they can meet their customers' needs. So this is actually a big change in how Honda does business in order to support those customers. Then the biggest problem of hydrogen is hydrogen. How do you get it? How do you create the value chain of hydrogen to the customer such that that customer can have a reasonable experience? How do you provide operational support? These industries don't exist at scale yet. And so if we want to supply fuel cells to those, to our OEM customers, we have to be in a position to support the delivery of hydrogen to them. And actually, Tim Sheehan here, my colleague, that's his job. Thanks, Tim. And we don't want this hydrogen to just be any hydrogen. Today, 97-ish% of all of the hydrogen in distribution is made from natural gas, and then the CO2 is simply vented to atmosphere. We have to create a new industry around green hydrogen and clean hydrogen, making use of the properties of hydrogen as energy storage, matching supply of renewable electricity. When it needs to be used as electricity, send it there. When it needs to be stored, store it as hydrogen. We need to make this industry work so that we can make zero carbon hydrogen at scale to be able to deliver to our customers. And we're investigating how to use our own power purchase agreements as sites to begin and create that value chain. How many of you have heard of the Arches California Hydrogen Hub activity? Got one here. Let's see a little bit of head checking. This is interesting. So I always find it funny when it's in your industry and everyone's talking about it, but then you step out of it, nobody knows about this. But California was selected for one of the US Department of Energy's Hydrogen Hub activities. And basically this vision of creating green hydrogen and distributing to many customers is core to the vision of the California Hydrogen Hub. And we want to be right there to help make that happen. And so that's it. That's all I had prepared for you today. That's what we are doing as Honda to revolutionize our, not just manufacturing, but our entire value chain to extend our activities where we can to seize the opportunity in the transition from petroleum-based products to renewable energy-based products. But really, it's about creating new products that we think our customers are going to love, that are zero carbon, fueled with clean energy, and made from 100% recycled and sustainable materials. That's it.
Thank you. Well, Ryan, you're welcome to stand up or come and sit down by me.
Sure.
I want to start with a couple of questions, and some of these are summarizing a lot. We had over 100 people online, and so we had a lot of questions online as well. But I kind of got to do this. So this is a huge change.
Yes.
Because it's such a huge change, a lot of people don't believe it. How do you talk, what do you say? So all of these big goals and things by 2050 and so forth, are there tons of small item roadmaps and just thousands of Gantt charts that are being used to get to these big things? How are the decisions made about what you prioritize?
Oh my gosh, there's a lot of loaded questions in there.
Yeah. It gets worse.
Good question. So yes, there are nested Gantt charts that plot out the whole works of it. I will say though, in a lot of the business and technology development, you can plan the work for a short period of time ahead of you, but you don't necessarily know after a certain point. You might have less than 50% certainty on what you should do next. So a lot of the work is iterative. Our teams meet every 2 weeks, review the work that they've done.
And not everything proceeds in a perfectly,
right.
steady, continuous rate. Yeah,
But
you get sudden breakthrough too.
But when something reaches a point, for example, battery technology.
Yeah.
10 years ago was too early for Honda. Other companies decided at that time, but it was too early for Honda to decide to, put, billions of dollars into manufacturing batteries. The rate of change of progress in batteries was too fast. The costs were still too high. We could not engineer a final product that we knew we could offer to a customer at a reasonable price, and they would be satisfied with that product. And so we were somewhat slow in that. But once you have that confidence that you can do that and the product will meet your customer's needs, then you can put that together in the decision making.
You're here on the innovation side. You're working on energy transition.
Yeah.
But you've got a giant group of automakers, the Honda group, all over the world that are still selling gasoline powered cars.
This is true.
So how do you interact with?
That's a good question. So For example, a few weeks ago, we had a global meeting of, we called regional environmental secretariats.
Yeah.
One of the other hats that I wear is the environmental secretariat for North America. My teams are in charge of plotting out the decarbonization strategy for all the factories, all the facilities, all the logistics chains. And we all get together globally and we share, news and information and progress on what we're doing and how we're doing it. And then each team goes back and makes its business plan on you have the long-term objectives, but you make a detailed 3-year business plan with, objectives for the end of your 3 years. Iterate, and, you achieve half of your objectives and hope that they were the right ones. Iterate and move on.
So this is a lot of communication, and it's a lot of
Yes.
bottom-up distributed decision-making.
Yes.
Consensus decision-making, as well as kind
You know
of
the Japanese style.
top-down strategy.
Yes.
But I think that especially when you talk about, partnering with many of the other large car makers on these issues, how do you deal with possible antitrust things?
Antitrust is a big challenge. That's one of the reasons for the joint ventures, right?
Yeah.
If you can create a joint venture,
And it's approved.
and it's approved, right? You have to go through global approvals to
right.
get these approved. And every government globally has a right to an opinion on
Yeah,
the content of your joint venture. Once you've created that, though, you can have a confidentiality agreement between the OEM and the joint venture. You can share information. It can be used in a good
yeah,
competitive way within that joint venture to facilitate its work. And so the key challenge is to identify those areas of common challenge with your competitors that you can't do yourself. Right? So for example, like public EV charging was one of those, it's too big for Honda to do by itself. And frankly, we're 9% of the auto market, 10% of the auto market. Our customers are going to be reliant on every other charger that's out there. And the last thing we want is this bifurcated network of lots of different cards and apps that you need, kind of like we have now, in order for people to get out there and use it. So you envision that future that you want, really high quality customer experience, identify the key barriers to doing it, collaboration between these auto OEMs, identify partners who you think share that vision, bring them together, announce it. And then it's amazing that once you announce it, you've got others who come along right away. They're like, oh yeah, we also share that vision. And then you can all work together collaboratively to get the job done.
yeah, okay. So I guess this is, I'm going to imitate a journalist and ask you the tough question,
Oh.
right? So I think a lot of people would see a presentation like this and be kind of cynical and say,
Fair enough.
why is this not greenwashing? What can you say to somebody who claims greenwashing?
I don't know, is an $11 billion investment in Canada greenwashing?
That's exactly what I was hoping.
I mean, you can take
Put some budget numbers
Yeah.
behind this, because the country is actually spending this money
Yeah.
and devoting people and resources to it.
full page ad in the New York Times is a lot cheaper than that, so you could.
True, very true.
So yeah, if the intent is, PR and marketing, you'd spend a lot less than.
But one of the things about getting to this, the 3-0 goals, right? A lot of it will involve market behavior as well as things that you might cooperate with other makers or
Yeah.
cooperate with the electric grid people and so forth. I'm curious, what role do you think what are the techniques? Do you think carbon trading is going to be a big thing? Do you think that government targets for all of the vehicles sold being EVs,
Yeah.
that kind of thing? How do you see these tools for improving market behavior? Changing
So, I mean-
market behavior.
Finally, like if every product we sell into an economy that's governed by the rules of the society of that economy.
Yeah.
For the last, dozens of years, globally through United Nations not companies, but countries have gotten together globally and they've said, hey, reducing CO2 is of global importance. And also of equivalent stature, but not as well publicized, biodiversity is of global importance. And making sure that the species upon which human beings and the ecosystems upon which we rely on
Interact with.
are healthy, that's of global importance.
Yeah.
Every nation in the world, with the exception of Syria, has signed on to the treaties, the global treaties, that basically say that our economies in our countries will adopt rules to preserve biodiversity and to reduce the impact of climate change. And actually, one of the biggest impacts on biodiversity is climate change. So attack that. And there's a variety of methods, but carbon taxes, carbon trading have been ones that have been identified. Product level fuel economy regulations are there as well. Fuel regulations, for example, we have a low carbon fuel standard in California that seeks to reduce the carbon intensity of the fuel. California also has a regulation to try to reduce the vehicle miles traveled of each vehicle. Then cities are responsible for implementing the policies to reduce the vehicle miles traveled. So systematically, each society is trying things and experimenting with things. And in some cases, the market reaction and political reaction is not what's expected, and things will step forward and step back. But fundamentally, like the roadmap that I've presented here, and this is Honda's reaction to the global direction that society and people have said that these two big objectives are important. And so the only way to achieve them is to achieve what I laid out, this 000 goals for Honda.
And then to execute within the different regional kind of regulatory schemes. Okay, I'm going to open the floor to audience questions, but I've got one or two more for you before we go with the audience. So several people online also ask about the kind of international situation. And does your role inside Honda, do you see a lot more uncertainty now due to the change in the US administration? And also, how are the international kind of possible tariffs and such going to impact the whole kind of sustainability effort?
It's a good question. I don't know that I am uniquely able to predict the future in all of those, all of those aspects. But certainly,
does it feel even worse than it did last week or last month?
Certainly, the prospects of tariffs create uncertainty around which markets can you manufacture and import into, right? So like the North American economy, as it is today, was predicated on cross-border manufacturing and distribution of goods. I am a Canadian. I spent 20 years in the United States with a North American Free Trade Agreement work authorization. It's not even a visa, it's work authorization. I have a green card now. Absent the regulation that enabled that, I would not be here, as would products manufactured in other areas. So, regulations and rules have consequences, and
And it is true, it's a global problem.
yeah, it's a global.
The challenge of sustainability is something to address. And, hopefully through global knowledge exchange and cooperation where we can. Okay, why don't I open the floor to questions? You go first.
Okay, I'll go first. So really good presentation. It's a tremendous amount of effort that's obviously going to be required to get to this point. And I'm curious, you didn't really address this in the presentation, but you did mention the fuel cell approach and the EV approach. And it seems like those are sort of competing, and both are going to require incredible infrastructure commitment. And is it possible to have both of those, or is one going to win out, or is it going to be Betamax or VHF if you're old enough to remember?
That's a great question. You know, our fuel cells.
I'm curious as to what Honda's vision or assumption is in terms of this, because it seems like you have one foot on the dock and one on the boat.
That metaphor is challenging. When I grew up, I remember one of our neighbors also had a laser disc. So to add to that, the challenge of standardization. I think fuel cells and batteries are each have applicability to different products in the market. So finally, we want to make products that meet our customers' needs. And you can break that down into the specific usage requirements of those products in those markets. So for example, let's take heavy duty trucking. Fleet operators need to know that the products that they use to distribute, goods through, wherever they need to go are going to get there at the time that they've committed. They also have to work on the drivers have a regulated number of hours that they can drive in a day, beginning of the shift and end of the shift. Weather and temperature has an effect on range of batteries, as do grades and elevation and speeds. The ability to predict accurately what the state of charge of the battery would be at the end of a battery shift is really challenging when you don't necessarily know all of the environmental conditions that product will go through in the day. So in our survey of customers of potential battery solutions for heavy duty trucks and hydrogen solutions for heavy duty trucks, with the target through regulation, diesel is going away in certain markets by 2035. So those fleet operators have to adapt. They basically have those two solutions today. Battery can meet the needs of about 50% of the routes, no question. Even with the predicted improvement in battery capability, which is also improving, on an annual basis quite a lot. Hydrogen can meet the needs of a significant fraction of those routes. And so today, where we don't have certainty of what will win, I think having both solutions is necessary to be able to facilitate, at the end of 2035, the customer needs to transition to a zero emission solution. So by 2050, everyone has to be at zero emission. If we don't have both as a solution to get there, I think you jeopardize the ultimate goal.
And a quick follow-up to this, it does seem like the Japanese automakers, and maybe Hyundai too, have put a lot more effort into hydrogen than the American or the European makers. Is there something that in East Asia that the rest of us don't?
Our joint venture manufacturing facility is with GM.
Okay.
So that's not, I would not say that that's a rule, but I think that observation is correct.
Reminding,
the light duty products that are there are from Hyundai, Honda, and Toyota.
Okay.
So that being said, I think, if you look at Japan uniquely, it doesn't have a lot of energy resources. All the petroleum used for transportation today is imported. All of the natural gas used for heating and for power generations imported as LNG at fairly high dollar per BTU costs. If you look at those areas as ripe for innovation for something new to replace, like hydrogen, the economics and scale make sense in those economies first.
Okay.
But now where else can you do that where you can achieve big scale? You look to North America.
Great, thank you. That's a great answer.
Can I just?
And I'm afraid we're about out of time.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we're running out of time. I saw your hand first. Was it a follow-up that you had?
A follow-up to what you just asked, yes. Is there anything to do with the government? So like in India too, they're looking at hydrogen because government has made big, and then Reliance is saying it's hydrogen, and so was Japan. Does it have to do anything with the which way the government is pushing the technology ecosystem?
You've given a very industry-focused presentation. But certainly, every government in the world is
Right.
trying to match the Paris standards, the COPE standards.
Yeah, I would say, for example, fuel cells and hydrogen are not at a commercial readiness level. And so if you want to start the growth and initiate the growth of value chains in those economies, it takes some either regulatory limits on the alternative or subsidization to spur the growth. And so tax credits, and subsidies and whatnot, the hydrogen hub activity in North America. I'm not quite familiar with everything that's going on in India.
And so is Ireland.
I'm afraid, yeah, that's it. Please, your question.
Thank you. So this is a bit different question. So the Honda Soichiro said in 99% failure and 1% success. That's a great spirit. And what I want to know, and also to achieve everything you have laid out today, it requires enormous human resources, human power. How is Honda R&D and Honda managing human resources to maintain that spirit and try to achieve it as a management, and how you visions and also like how you recruit those people?
So a great Honda culture question.
That's a really interesting question. So I've had the privilege over the last few years that I've been involved in hiring more than 100 people in the last about 3 years. Fundamentally for me at Honda, respect for the individual is at the core of Honda's philosophy and the core of Honda's culture. Honda has also a heritage of respecting the ideas and opinions of the experts and people at the spot, so the engineers and technicians and whoever can understand the problem that they're facing the best is key in making the decision. And so they'll bring their knowledge and capability up to management and say that we think solve this problem, this is what we need to do. And then it's management's job to take all of the ideas of all of the people of Honda and make a coherent business plan out of it. And it takes a lot of it's hard prioritization. So fundamentally, once you have a really good business plan, and everybody understands what it is, having the full resources of the company all pulling in the same direction, where people know how their efforts are contributing to that big goal is really important. And people can see that within Honda. Having that, big objectives clearly communicated down such that everybody is moving and pulling in the same direction creates a joy and a connection to the work that motivates people and brings them together. And I think Honda is uniquely say good or capable, or in my experience anyway, really manages that very well to make the individual contributions of every single person align to the needs of the company and of society.
That's a great note to close the session and also to close the series on. Ryan, thank you so much for a great talk. We will start our spring series on entrepreneurship in Asia at the beginning of April, just like this, but different topic, updates on what's happening in Asia. For students, please do your course evaluations. I'd love to hear from anybody in the program. If you have an email you'd like to write to me about this, let me know what you think. We want to be responsive to what you would like to see in the future. Thanks. Thanks, Ryan.